Welcome to the Mechanics of Ascension, how to embody your higher self. My name is Gustavo Castañer. I'm the founder of AscendedRelationships.com. And today I'm really excited because I have an incredible presentation for you with very specific information about who you really are, your higher self, Ascension. So let's get started. So in this presentation, you will learn the true definition of ascension, individual and collective ascension, as well as planetary ascension, because just like us, we have a higher self. The earth also has a higher self. You will learn about your 15 multidimensional anatomy. You will learn what exactly is your higher self and where is it. You will learn about the different 13 levels of mind you have, the difference between involution versus evolution, the process of incarnation, your soul family, the difference between indigos and angelic humans and how they can work together, the mechanics of your Merkaba, how many Merkabas you have and how they're supposed to be rotating, functioning, the true nature of karma and how to clear karma, how to connect to your higher self. You will learn a technique, and not only will you learn this technique, but you will experience the connection to your higher self in this presentation, and how to fully embody your higher self, your maximum potential. So before we begin, make sure you are free from distractions. Turn off Skype, Facebook, Twitter, your cell phone, because if this is very important information for you, which I guess it is because you're here right now, then you really want to be completely focused on what I'm going to say. And even though this is a recording, I will be answering questions on the comments below. So if you have a question, make sure you write it down in the comments below, and I'll get to that question as soon as I can. So what is ascension? The process of ascension is simply going up the dimensional scale by raising the particle pulsation rhythm of your bioenergetic field. This is what spiritual evolution is all about. Going from individuation back to the state of at-one-ment, or merging with Source. The process of dimensional ascension and biological and planetary evolution is the process of accretion or of drawing more light, that is multidimensional frequency bands, into your morphogenetic field. Basically, enlight means secreting more light, so being filled with light. So as you progress in your evolutionary process and you embody your higher self, that is exactly what you're doing. You're drawing more light, and when you are filled with light in all levels of your consciousness, then that is what is known as enlightenment. Who are you? Well, most of us have experienced for most of our lives our physical, emotional, mental body, maybe one or two or a couple of spiritual experiences. But in this reality, we experience only 3 dimensions, right? But you are actually a multidimensional being living in a 15 multidimensional time matrix. You have at least 12 strands of DNA. Some people have even more, and we will discuss this later on. So you can access 12 dimensions of consciousness at least. Imagine that. What would be your life? How would you perceive reality and yourself if you could access 12 dimensions? Or even 4, 5, 6. You actually have 1,728 identities which are located in different time and space locations. Since time is non-linear, all past lives and probable future lifetimes are all happening at once. There are infinite versions of yourself, and you can use your free will to experience any version you prefer. So let's talk a bit more about that. Since time is simultaneous, past, present, and future all exist in the now. If you go to the future, there are infinite probable futures where whatever decision you make in the now will determine what future you experience, or whatever you energize the most. If you're constantly visualizing and imagining and seeing yourself a certain way, then you're probably going to manifest that. So you have free will, and you can choose whatever you want. This is completely allowed, and you are loved unconditionally. So no matter what you choose, that's okay, because that is how the system was created. There's nothing really bad or wrong. You're just experiencing yourself. This is the nature of reality. But that means that when you choose to experience yourself in line with your higher self, well, you will embody your higher self. You will ascend. But when you choose to experience yourself going against source will, which we will discuss later on what this actually means, you can create karmic imprints and create what is known as a shadow self. So imagine right now, throughout the 15 dimensions and throughout the time-space continuum, you have more than 1,500 identities of yourself. So not only what you do affects all of those identities, but what you do in those space-time locations affect you. So that is what is known as karma bleed-through. And we will talk about karma and the nature of karma later on. So your higher self is a part of you located on dimension 4 through 15. And you actually have 13 levels of mind. So usually when you ask people, what is your higher self? Sometimes you get vague answers like, oh, the light that I am, the all-loving me. And that's true, but your higher self, it's a very specific, very detailed part of yourself. And you can see this graphic here. We will go into that in greater detail. So let's start with the first part of yourself. And this is what is known as the incarnate identity. This is a part of you that is listening to this presentation, that it's experiencing this reality in dimensions 1, 2, and 3, here on planet Earth. Your physical, emotional, and mental bodies. So dimension 1 corresponds to your subconscious mind, the cellular and etheric body. Dimension 2 corresponds to the instinctual emotional mind. And the third dimension to the reasoning mind. So those are the first 3 levels of mind you have in your physical, emotional, and mental bodies. So the incarnate identity has a gross matter carbon-based body. It's the most dense body we have. And we're meant to fully embody our incarnate identity from age 0 to 12. So when we're born until the age of 12, we're actually fully embodying this aspect of ourselves. So obviously when you arrive, you have your physical body, but then your emotional and mental bodies begin to develop. So let's take a look at this graph, which will show you even more aspects of yourself. So here we are. This is the first 3 levels: physical, emotional, and mental bodies. And also you can notice the different colors which correspond to the frequency bands of your auric field, your chakra, so chakra, the root chakra, sacral chakra, and solar plexus chakra. These three frequency bands are your incarnate identity here on planet Earth, or what is known as harmonic universe 1. And then you have a magnetic repulsion zone that separates this harmonic universe from the next harmonic universe where your soul identity is, and we will cover that in just a minute. So your first chakra, second chakra, and third chakras. And also this corresponds to your first, second, and third strand of DNA. Like I mentioned before, you have at least 12 strands of DNA, allowing 12 dimensions of consciousness. So the first strands of DNA, first 3 strands, is what most of humanity has activated right now. Now, let's continue. Next, we have the soul identity, which is you in dimensions 4, 5, and 6. Now, in dimensions 4, 5, and 6, you're no longer on planet Earth, you're on planet Terra. So that is the higher self of Earth on dimensions 4, 5, and 6. And your body is getting lighter. So as your soul identity, you have what is known as a semi-etheric matter carbon silica based body. Dimension 4 corresponds to your astral mind. So for example, we all access our astral mind every time we go to sleep at night and we dream. Then we have dimension 5, the archetypal mind. Dimension 6, the angelic mind. And all of these aspects of yourself and levels of your mind, dimensions 4, 5, and 6, are what is known as your superconscious mind. So when you embody your soul identity, you're able to access your superconscious mind, and you begin to use higher sensory perception, like clairvoyance, clairaudience, direct cognition, etc. And you are meant to embody your soul identity from age 12 to 22. Now you might be thinking, I'm way over 22 and I didn't embody my soul identity. I don't have access to my superconscious mind, or maybe I don't have my higher senses activated. Well, I had the same experience. When I was 22, I didn't embody my soul identity. But this is the original divine blueprint. And the reason for this is that most people have blockages in the 4th strand of DNA, which prevents them from accessing that level of consciousness. So what happens is that at age 12, those blockages disrupt what is actually naturally intended to happen, and we start experiencing those chaotic teenage years where there are a lot of hormonal imbalances, the emotions are all over the place, etc. That wasn't meant to happen. So let's take a look at the graph. So you have dimensions 4, 5, and 6, your heart chakra, your throat chakra, and your third eye chakra, and DNA strands 4, 5, and 6 in harmonic universe 2. So there you go. Now you might be thinking, how can I access this? Well, when you're born, you have your first 3 strands of DNA activated, right? By the age of 12, you were supposed to start activating your heart chakra, your throat chakra, your third eye chakra by the age of 22. But because a lot of people have energetic blockages like auric attachment, karmic imprints, what happens is that the frequency bands, the blockages that are located on your first 3 levels of consciousness, don't match the frequencies of your soul identity. So when you clear the blockages like auric attachment, karmic imprints, implants, DNA blockages on the first 3 levels of your awareness, what happens is that the particle pulsation rhythm in your incarnate identity will change. So the particles that make those first 3 bands of yourself will not only change their speed, but their direction and their particle pulsation rhythm to match the next harmonic universe. And when this happens, this magnetic repulsion zone, it's just, you transcend that, and these frequency bands merge with the higher frequency bands, and that's how you embody your higher self. So you draw in this light into your body. Alright, so now let's go to the next level, your oversoul identity, which is located in dimensions 7, 8, and 9. And it is you on planet Gaia. So many of you have heard of Gaia. And yes, Gaia equates to Earth, but in dimensions 7, 8, and 9. And here on Gaia you have an etheric matter silica-based body. So notice that as you go up the multidimensional scale, your body becomes less dense. You become lighter. Because you're doing that. You're drawing in more light. You're activating your DNA. You're removing those energetic blockages. The life force currents are flowing through your field. You're drawing in more light from the higher dimensions and even from the earth. And you expand. So dimension 7, you have your etheric mind. Dimension 8, you have your monadic mind. And dimension 9, you have your geriatric mind. Now, the original divine blueprint was for you to embody and integrate your oversoul identity from age 23 to 33. So here you have it, dimension 7, 8, and 9. So most of you know about the 7 embodied chakras, right? So you have your crown chakra, third eye chakra, throat chakra, heart chakra, solar plexus chakra, sacral chakra, and root chakra. But you also have your morphogenetic chakras, which are chakras located outside the body, and which are even more subtle than the 7 embodied chakras. So here you have dimension 8 and 9, so chakra number 8 and 9, and as well DNA strand 7, 8, and 9, what is known as harmonic universe 3, planet Gaia, your oversoul identity. Now, after we embody that part of ourselves, we reach or access what is known as the avatar identity, which is located in dimensions 10, 11, and 12. And it is you on planet Aramatena. And right here you are pre-matter liquid light multi-vector consciousness. So notice that I'm saying you are, because right now you are in those dimensions. Like I said, time is non-linear, space is all connected, and your higher self, you in the higher dimensions, is living right now. It is experiencing reality right now. So your higher self is not something that you become. You already are that. But we're going to talk about the difference between evolution and involution so that you understand the process of tuning into that awareness. On dimension 10, you have the Christic mind, or the Christ consciousness. So you've probably heard of this, embodying your Christ consciousness. Well, that happens when you start to access the 10th dimension. Because from dimensions 10 to 12, that is where ascended masters reside. Now in the 11th dimension, you have your Buddhaic mind. And in the 12th dimension, the Nirvanic mind. So this is where all these words of Buddha, Nirvana, Christ consciousness really come from. And originally, you would embody this part of yourself from age 33 to 44, because that is when your corresponding DNA strands will start activating. So from age 0 to 12, you would have your first 3 DNA strands. Then age 12 to 22, you would activate strands 4, 5, and 6. From 23 to 33, you would start activating strands 7, 8, and 9, and then finally strands 10, 11, and 12 after your 33rd birthday. And you probably heard about ancient texts where ascended masters were witnessed by other people, or they saw them, and they had this halo, this bright light around them. Well, actually, when an ascended master comes into Earth, they incarnate. Their auric field is so big and expansive. It's actually 144 miles in all directions. So imagine the frequency holder that an ascended master is. So here you have it, dimensions 10, 11, and 12. Your 10, 11, and 12 morphogenetic chakras, and the 10, 11, and 12 strands of DNA in harmonic universe 4, or your avatar identity. And finally, we have the Rishi, or meta-terrestrial identity, which is located in dimensions 13, 14, and 15. And it is you as a gestalt of consciousness. Imagine looking at the sun. That is exactly how you look like in this state of consciousness. You are that flaming sphere of light. And your body, if you have a body, is almost like not having a body, is antimatter waveform. So you are just in the most subtle levels of manifestation, and you have access to the universal conscious mind. So once you get to the avatar and Rishi levels, ascended master levels, you can easily bilocate, trilocate, teleport, communicate telepathically, exit and re-enter the time matrix, and reach a state of unwantment, and be individuated at the same time. All of this is actually built in your DNA template. Now remember when I said that you have 1728 identities. Well, when you get to the Ascended Master level, as a Rishi self, you can actually choose to have all those identities as one. And you become one being. And then you can trilocate, bilocate, and be whatever you want to be. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't that inspire you to, work on yourself? I'm really passionate about this. When I think of this, it's just I become effulgent, because this is truly what I believe in. I resonate with this information, that I am that big of a being, in the most humble ways, and everyone else is. We are one with Source. So like I said, the planet, just like you, has a multidimensional aspect. So here you have a graph. Planet Earth, dimensions 1, 2, and 3. Planet Terra, dimensions 4, 5, and 6, where your soul identity resides. Planet Gaia, the oversoul, dimensions 7, 8, and 9. And planet Aramatena, dimensions 10, 11, and 12, your avatar identity. And just like us, the Earth becomes lighter as well. So let's talk about involution versus evolution. Involution is the process of the one source God. All that is individuating. So imagine, take a look at this graph, and this is a 15 multidimensional time matrix. Now beyond that, you have source, this white light. So at one point, if you can say that, words cannot really describe this, but the one source God knew itself, but didn't get to experience itself. So in order to do that, the one source God decided to individuate itself. So you can imagine a very massive beam of light that separates into two beams of light. But those two beams of light are still within that one beam of light. And then those two beams of light, that is the masculine and feminine energies. And then those beams of light keep separating. And so the process of involution is source spiraling down until the first dimension, until complete individuation and the illusion of separation. Now, evolution is the individuations of God, the infinite manifestations, going back from individuation all the way to at one-ment. So it's going up the dimensional scale and merging once again with source. So let's talk about your higher self versus your ego self. Due to implants, or natural implants, and DNA blockages, most of humanity hasn't been able to activate their fourth strand of DNA. So they don't have access to their superconscious mind, and this results in electromagnetic, cognitive, emotional, and hormonal imbalances that we all know from puberty. They cannot access their heart chakra. They cannot fully open the heart chakra. And this is why we are experiencing wars here on Earth. Because if you could have a fully open heart chakra and access unconditional love and begin to see the true nature of reality, that it's all infused with love, then you would look at other people and there's no way you could judge them. There's no way you could engage in war with them, because you know they are another manifestation of you. But instead, most people live their entire lives from their ego self, from their physical, emotional, and mental levels of awareness. Now, there's nothing wrong with those levels. We're meant to have those levels of awareness, and they're very functional, and it's part of the experience of Source. But if you only stay within those levels of perception and reality and experience, then you are very limited, because you actually have 15 levels. You have 12 more levels of consciousness. And you're going to stay stuck in the Maya, in the illusion of being separate, instead of experiencing that state of oneness. So here you have a graph. This is a representation of what's happening. Most people have only access to their first three chakras, the physical, emotional, and mental bodies. So the first chakra holds issues related to survivals, to fear. It's also the seed of that tantric energy and that warrior energy. But if you have a lot of blockages, then that chakra is gonna probably have a lot of fear, soul fragments, and imprints. Then the emotional body, if it's not operating to its highest potential, then you're going to experience issues related to pain, suffering, and abundance issues. Also victimization. And then the third chakra is going to be holding issues about power, control, self-esteem. And all of these things are just, it is what it is. We're meant to experience that, but we're also meant to go beyond that. So when we reach the age of 12, if we don't start to access our heart chakra, our DNA is not activated, we don't have access to our throat chakra, then we're going to stay stuck in this first three levels. The ego consciousness, the shadow self. We're going to be running in reverse. Instead, of experiencing this, the full range of who you are. So when you activate your heart chakra, you start to experience trust, unconditional self-love, omni-love. Then the throat chakra, you're able to speak your truth. You're able to hear and communicate the truth of the universe. Your third eye chakra, that allows you to see beyond the physical reality, the more subtle wave patterns and frequencies, and allows higher intuition. So when you experience that, then you draw in more light, and your personal power will be aligned with your higher self. You will have control, self-mastery. Your emotional body will be aligned with your higher self, so you'll experience joy and pleasure. And then you'll have that tantric energy and warrior energy. You'll be grounded. And because we all have one of our morphogenetic chakra, the 13th chakra, located in the center of Earth, we actually draw energy from the Earth, and our 15th chakra is way out in space. So we're drawing energy from source, from Earth, that electromagnetic energy, using our chakras or Merkavas. And that way, we go beyond this reality of having to eat food, physical food. You can actually get to a state where you draw in so much light that your body never decays. You can actually transmute your body and ascend. And this is the original divine blueprint for health. So how do you embody your higher self? Like I mentioned earlier, by clearing those energetic blockages like auric attachment, karmic imprints, unnatural seals, and DNA blockages that are located in the first three chakras and also the higher chakras, that prevent the frequency of those chakras to match the frequency of the higher chakras, and embodying your soul identity, the oversoul, and the avatar identity. And by activating your dormant potential. Remember, you have at least 12 strands of DNA. So you need to activate the higher strands. Science tells us that we only have a 2 helix DNA, but that's not true. In the multidimensional spectrum, we have at least 12 strands. But even that, science says that we only use 3% of our DNA, and 97% is junk. Source doesn't create something junk. There is information, knowledge, waiting there to be activated. And also by calibrating your chakras and your Merkavas, you can change the particle pulsation rhythm and vector of the particles that make your first three frequency bands of consciousness, and progressively the higher ones. Then what happens is that these particles will match the frequency of the next higher dimensions. And this is how you ascend up the multidimensional scale. You see, dimensions are not up there. All dimensions are within you, everywhere. So you only require to tune in into that dimension by activating your DNA, changing your frequency, and changing the particle pulsation rhythm of your auric field to match the frequency of that dimension. Makes sense? Are you resonating with this information? Now, what will this do for you? So you embody your higher self. What does this mean? What will happen in your life? Well, for example, if you activate strands 4, 5, and 6, and the corresponding chakras, you will be able to embody your soul identity. What this means is that you will be able to work in line with your soul's purpose by making your free will choices in line with your higher self. You would, receive a download of wisdom, and maybe you would write a book with a very much needed teaching here on earth to heal, to develop or cultivate spiritual, mental, physical mastery. You would heal the earth's grids and help humanity ascend, because you would be accreting so much light, since we're all one and we are inside the earth's auric field. Then you would have an impact on the frequency of earth and the people who surround you, and you will be able to bring a specific teaching, knowledge, wisdom, etc. We all have specific missions. You would transcend creating from your ego and personality. So you would transcend what is known as your shadow self. You would also meet or recognize your soul family and your twin flame or soulmates, etc. by activating your higher senses, and because of the frequency resonance, once you embody your higher self, you will be pulled towards your soul family. You will attract them. It will happen effortlessly. And you will recognize them, because when you are at that frequency level, you'll know who they are. You'll feel that bond, that connection that is beyond words. So, what's the difference between indigos and angelic humans? Like I mentioned, you have at least 12 strands of DNA. Humans, or angelic humans, have what is known as the 12-strand diamond sun DNA template. And this allows the embodiment of the avatar identity, dimensions 10, 11, and 12, and access to the Rishi identity, dimensions 13, 14, and 15. Now, indigos, on the other hand, have anywhere from 24 to 48 strands of DNA. So they can embody dimensions outside of this time matrix, because this 15 multidimensional time matrix is not the only time matrix. There are many. So imagine if you could access dimensions beyond this time matrix. Just thinking about embodying 12 dimensions of consciousness, it's mind-blowing. It's something that is beyond what your mind can comprehend, because you have to really experience it. You cannot rationalize this. But even though you cannot rationalize this, you cannot fully comprehend it, you're probably resonating with this information. There is something within you that says, oh my God, this makes complete sense. So indigos can embody the Rishi self, and they can exit the 15th dimension, or the 15 multidimensional time matrix, and come back as an ascended master. And that is what truly is an ascended master. It's someone that has evolved all the way up, gone outside of the time matrix, merged with source, and still using its free will decide to come back. And usually beings like this decide to come back to assist others remember their true nature, who they are, and to assist humanity and everyone else to go up the multidimensional scale, so that they don't stay stuck in the drama, the suffering, the chaos, etc. And as you can imagine, we have a lot of ascended masters helping, not only from the higher dimensions, but here physically on earth, there are ascended masters incarnating right now. In ancient times, we would have one ascended master every, century, something like that. Because in those times, the earth could not hold that high of a frequency. So it would only allow 1 or 2 ascended masters per 100 years. But since we are in an ascension cycle that began in the year 2000, and we're still in it, the frequency of the earth is rising, and you can feel this. And the chaos that you can see on earth is a part of that. Why? Because the blockages that are on earth, on the earth's grids, because of many cataclysms and things that we cannot really go into detail right here because it would take us hours. But the earth blockages and the blockages in humanity and the collective consciousness, what's happening is that the higher frequencies are coming down on earth to the grids of earth, the auric field of earth and the auric fields of humanity, and those frequencies are meeting energetic blockages. So they're pushing down, and this is causing molecular compaction. And they're pushing down until they just blast through those blockages. But, you know, that process can be very chaotic. In humans, it can create a lot of pain, suffering, drama, confusion. On Earth, it can create, you know, crazy weather. And, you know, but you can feel this. You can feel that the institutions, the outdated systems, governments, etc., are beginning to crumble. And this is why. So if you resonate with this information, you are most likely an indigo, because this information vibrates at the 6th dimensional frequency. And indigos, when they incarnate, they have their 6th strand of DNA activated to a certain degree, more than angelic humans. So when indigos resonate with this information because they have it encoded within them. So when an indigo listens to this information, they're not really learning, but they're remembering. There is actually an activation in the DNA taking place that is releasing the information. Indigos belong to what is known as the blueprint soul groups. Originated or helped design the blueprint for a race. So they're the fathers of humanity. And then there are other indigos that they're like the engineers, the specialists in reordering and restoring the DNA to its original divine template for health and ascension. So the founding fathers created the original divine blueprint for health, immortality, ascension. And because of the blockages, you know, some indigos were created to become engineers to bring that back. Now let's talk about your Merkaba. You probably heard about the Merkaba. And you actually have 5 different stages of Merkaba that you can activate along with your DNA. Your Merkaba is essentially your light vehicle and what allows interdimensional travel. So did you know this? Were you aware that you have 5 different stages of Merkaba? You know, most people know about only one Merkaba. Well, just like your higher self and the different harmonic universe, you have different levels of your Merkaba. And basically the Merkaba is 2 counter-rotating spirals of energy that look like a 3-dimensional Star of David. And you have a picture here. So you have one triangle with the tip facing up, and then another triangle with the tip looking down. Now the top portion is supposed to rotate clockwise, and the bottom portion is supposed to rotate counterclockwise. But most people have their Merkaba running in reverse as well, because the spin rate is off. In addition to interdimensional travel, another function of the Merkaba is supplying us with energy into our bioenergetic system. So the top represents the electrical spiral which draws the primal life force currents directly from source. So you can see this image. This would represent the higher dimensions, source, that galactic energy, and you would draw that energy, that electrical spiral, through the top Merkaba. Now the bottom Merkaba represents the magnetic spiral, which draws energies from Earth. And like I said before, your 13th chakra is located in the center of the Earth. So you would draw that magnetic energy from Earth, the electric energy from Source, and that would keep you vibrating in such a high frequency that you would not decay, you would not age, and you could travel interdimensionally. But what happens is that most people have their Merkaba running in reverse, and this can cause a lot of distortions, even weight issues. So DNA activation restores the Merkaba so you can process the life force currents at the proper speed and rotation. When the Merkaba is not functioning properly, it causes molecular compaction because the energy is not going out to the magnetic side of your Merkaba. It's getting stuck in your auric field. And so imagine having a lot of stuck energy getting more and more dense until it manifests as a disease, physical weight, or any other ways. And obviously it's going to cause a lot of chaos mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Now let's talk about karma. To understand karma, we must understand that this particular 15 multidimensional time matrix was created by Source with specific intentions. For example, the law of one, which states that everything is one. Even though there's the illusion of separation, if you get to the more subtle energetic levels, the atomic, subatomic, and even at the quantum level, you'll see that even the empty space around you is filled with energy. It's like an ocean of energy with different frequencies. So in reality, you are a hologram. You are made of different frequency waves that, because of your DNA, are vibrating at a specific speed, direction, rotation, etc. And that makes your physical body appear dense. And then there's the space between. But if you were able to activate your higher senses and tune in to the essence of reality, you would see that even your physical body, if you go deep within it, into the subatomic and quantum level, it's mainly energy. And it's connected to everything. So that's the first intention. Then you have the intention of unconditional love. And this is the nature of Source. Well, Source, if you've read spiritual books where people who have merged with Source or have had enlightening experiences, they talk about melting in this love that everything is. So that's one intention, that everything is unconditional love. You are loved no matter what you do. So that's related to the third intention, which is non-judgment. Since the time matrix is encoded with unconditional love, then we're not supposed to judge. We can, but it's not in line with Source will. Then we have perpetual motion. So as you can imagine, the only thing that is constant in the universe, in life, is change. Energy is always moving. It's meant to flow. It's not meant to stay put, stuck, or stagnated. So we need to embody that within our bioenergetic field and have our life force energy in perpetual motion, always moving, always flowing. If there are blockages in our chakras, the Merkaba is running in reverse, the DNA strands are blocked or running in reverse, then the energy is not going to flow properly. Then we have corporation and evolution. So that's basically the intent of Source, that we all evolve, that we all help each other and support each other. We also have free will choice, because remember, Source, God, One, energy, all that is desire to experience itself in all possibilities. So Source gave us the free will, or gave itself the free will to go against Source will. This is allowed. And because of the love, non-judgment, and unconditional love, you won't be judged. There's nothing wrong with that, with going against Source will. But there is the intent of the law of cause and effect, because it is a self-correcting system. It's meant to go back to Source, for everyone to evolve, for everyone to ascend. So anytime you use your free will against Source will, through the law of cause and effect, you will create a karmic imprint. So for example, if you choose judgment instead of unconditional love, you will create a karmic imprint. If you choose to feel fear instead of embodying the law of One, because imagine if you truly are aware and you have embodied this awareness that everything is one, and you are everything and everything is within you, then do you think it would be possible to feel fear? Of course not, right? You know, if you are one with God, the one Source energy that is everything, then you could never fear, because even death, you would know that you would just change energy. You would transcend, transmute. You're always going to be present, existent. If you choose competition instead of evolution, then you're going to create a karmic imprint, which is basically something saying, hey, you need to correct this. You need to go back. So what happens is that karmic imprints, what it does, it creates twisted energy patterns in your morphogenetic field and block you from creating more light. These karmic imprints then prevent you from connecting and embodying your higher dimensional aspects. And this distorts your perception of reality. So instead of seeing reality from a very empowering state, if you know that you are one with Source God, you would never be a victim. But if you go against Source will and you create karmic imprints, then you might create the shadow self persona, or the archetype of the victim. And this is going to distort your reality. You can also create fear and see everything as separate or as a threat. And you will be in survival mode. But if you make your free will choices in line with these intentions, you can embody your higher self, and ultimately you can become one with Source. Because when you operate from this frame of intentions, you're going to draw in more light. Now, like I said in the beginning, there are many ways to transcend karma, and walking karma is an option, but it's no longer a viable option. Why? Because we have lived so many lifetimes and created so much karma that it would take you thousands and thousands of years and thousands of lifetimes to walk all of your karma. Now right now we're in such an important time in human and Earth's history that we can't walk our karma. I mean, you can, but if you want to walk it, you want to walk all of it, it's going to take a long time. And there are faster ways to transcend your karma, by connecting to your higher self and transmuting energetically using your intent and energy healing techniques to shift, transmute those distorted energy patterns, those twisted energy patterns. You release that energy and you draw in the light, the wisdom from your higher self, and you don't have to walk the karma, you have that awareness. And next time you can make a higher choice. So you always want to heal at the quantum level of your awareness. When you do this, this is what allows true permanent healing. Remember, we have 15 levels of consciousness. And what happens is that there are healing modalities that only treat the first 2 or 3 levels of your consciousness. Maybe they work at the physical, emotional, and mental levels. But if you don't transmute the energetic blockages on all levels, then what happens is it can regenerate. So imagine it's just like going to get a massage. You go get a massage, and the person that is massaging you is basically massaging thought forms out of your muscles and your nervous system. And those thought forms go to the astral level, but since you haven't transmute those blockages, in a week they'll come back and regenerate. But when you heal at the quantum level, on your physical, emotional, mental, and all spiritual levels, all the way back to the void, that allows permanent healing. So your original design is to embody your avatar self, and embody a state of consciousness like Buddha, Christ, Saint Germain, Babaji, and other ascended masters. So enough about talking about our higher self. Let's experience connecting to our higher self. So what I want you to do is have your left hand with your fingertips pointing forward, the palm is facing down, and you can rest your elbow on your chair, maybe your thigh, and the hand is very relaxed, so it's something similar to what you see on your screen. And now take a deep inhale in, and with the exhale you're going to exhale any tension, expectation, attachment to results. And once again, take another deep inhale in, hold it, and when you exhale, exhale, and once again melt any tension, and you're going to feel that you're getting more grounded, more present. Now have your left hand ready. Once again, fingertips pointing forward, palm is facing down, the hand is not touching anything, it's in mid-air. And focus your attention, your awareness on your hand. And depending how sensitive you are, you might already feel that subtle energy, that tingling sensation that is your energetic body, your light body. But now you're going to repeat out loud the following. And you're going to notice what happens in your left hand. So say this: connecting to my higher self. And notice what happens in your hand. Can you feel a stronger tingling sensation in the fingertips? Even the whole hand is like it's become activated, buzzing with energy, but the fingertips are going to feel more intense. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your right hand and place it next to your left hand in the same position. And notice the difference in energy between both hands. The right hand is going to feel more neutral. The left hand is going to feel more buzzing, more tingling, especially the fingertips. Now this is one of the most simple yet powerful ways to connect to your higher self. And there's actually a full protocol, a technique to read energy signatures, and you can get answers, yes and no answers from your higher self using this technique. Now, I want to show you this technique, but I'm going to talk about how you can learn that technique later on for free, full tutorial, so that you can make decisions in line with your higher self. Imagine how different your life would be if you could ask your higher self if a job, if moving to a certain place, if dating someone, or making a business investment, is for your highest good, how different your life would be. So you're going to get an opportunity to learn this and master this. All right? So the intent of this presentation, you can rest your hand. The intent of this presentation is to remind you of who you really are, where you came from, and what you came here to do. You came at this specific time because you are a frequency holder, a pillar of light for Earth and humanity. The main sole purpose of indigos is to be a frequency or light holders on Earth, so that we can reach critical mass, restore the Earth's grids and stargates, and be able to ascend. So when we have our DNA activated, we can hold much more frequency, and because we have our 13th chakra located in the center of Earth, we actually restore the Earth's grids. And whatever you are, because you are accreting light and raising your frequency, you also raise the frequency of those around you because of the law of frequency resonance. The higher frequency will always have a positive impact on lower frequencies. So the lower frequencies will have to match that high frequency. So you will have a positive impact on the people who surround you, even people who don't know you. You're going to be walking around the street and you're going to be affecting them in very positive ways. And even the country you live in, you're going to be working on that location with your field. Another effect of embodying your soul identity and raising your frequency is attracting and meeting your soul family. You actually have 12 members in your soul family, and by raising your frequency you can meet them.